Thank you. So, hello everybody. My name is Maja Percic and I'm a PhD student at the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering and Naval Architecture at the University of Zagreb in Croatia. Today I'm going to present you a paper called Reduction of CO2 Emissions of Inland Passenger and Cargo Vessels by Alternative Power System Configurations. First, I'm going to introduce you to the research background, and after the methodology, the results are going to be explained, and the conclusion of the entire research is going to be stated. Anthropogenic greenhouse gases are causing the greenhouse effect and, as a consequence, the global warming. These greenhouse gases refers to emissions of carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and fluorinated gases in low concentration. This air pollution nowadays represents probably one of the most important environmental problems that needs to be resolved. Along with industry and road traffic, the shipping industry contributes to this problem. Exhaust gas released from the combustion of fuel in marine engine are considered to be one of the major causes of marine environmental pollution. The most pernicious emissions released from the engines are nitrogen oxide, sulfur oxides, carbon monoxide, particulate matter, and greenhouse gases as well. The presence of these gases have a negative impact both on the environment and on human health by causing the respiratory diseases. The research into emissions from shipping and the wider impact on air quality as well as on climate changes has been mainly directed to ocean-going vessels and less on the inland ships and their emissions. The reason for that is the mainly general opinion that these emissions have a small contribution to total transport emissions. However, it is important to mention that inland water transportation is regularly realized within highly populated areas, and therefore its effects should not be ignored. The inland waterway transport is, together with road and rail transport, one of the main three land transport modes. Besides transportation of cargo, inland waterway vessels are nowadays highly used for tourism purposes. Carbon dioxide represents a major greenhouse gas, and its concentration needs to be reduced. In order to highlight the importance of CO2 emission, the unit of carbon footprint is involved as a measure of the total amount of CO2 emission that is directly or indirectly caused by an activity or it's accumulated over the life stages of a project. In order to reduce negative impact on carbon footprint of the ships, the investigated measures that can be applied are related to the replacement conventional power system with alternative ones. The first measure is the implementation of renewable energy sources on board, in a sense of photovoltaic cells and wind turbines on ship for onboard power generation. Another measure that could lead to reduction of carbon footprint is the implementation of alternative marine fuels, such as liquefied natural gas, biodiesel, electricity, hydrogen, and so on, and also the implementation of hybrid ship power system. Due to commercially available and a familiar battery technology and the absence of the exhaust gases when the ship is operating, the full electrification of the ship represents a viable solution for future shipping. The aim of this paper is to perform a comparative life cycle assessment of different power system configurations implemented on two different ships engaged in the Croatian inland waterways sector. Selected ships are the cargo ship and the passenger ship, which uses a diesel engine for their propulsion. While the cargo ship is mostly used to transport oil between the two Croatian refineries, the passenger ship operates in the Krka National Park and used mainly for tourism purposes. In this paper, the retrofit of the existing power system with diesel engine is considered, where the alternatives are battery powered ship with only a lithium-ion battery as a power source, and photovoltaic cells battery powered ship, which includes implementation of both photovoltaic cells and lithium-ion battery on board. The environmental assessment of different power systems are performed with a life cycle assessment. The life cycle assessment is performed by means of GRID 2018 software. This environmental assessment considers emissions released through the life cycle of a ship power system, and they can be arranged into three phases. First phase is the well-to-pump phase, which refers to the fuel cycle. It includes the emissions from processes, such as processes from extraction of raw material, production of fuel in a production facility, and distribution of fuel to the refueling station. Second phase is pump-to-wheel phase, which refers to the use of the fuel in a ship power system, which causes the tailpipe emissions or do not cause tailpipe emissions. while the well-to-wheel emissions refers to emissions for well-to-pump to pump-to-wheel emissions. The third phase is the manufacturing phase and refers to the manufacturing process of the main element in a power system and their related released emissions. In this paper, the life cycle assessment is focused on the power system carbon footprint expressed in CO2 equivalent unit. The processes included in the life cycle assessment are presented on this slide, and for the diesel engine power chip, they are diesel engine manufacturing process, crude oil recovery and its transportation to the refinery where the diesel is produced, and the diesel transportation to the refueling station. After that, for vessel operation, the diesel is combusted and the emissions are released. Processes included in the life cycle assessment of the battery-powered ship are the electricity generation, battery manufacturing process, and the vessel operation, which results with no tailpipe emissions. While the processes included in the life cycle assessment of the photovoltaic cells battery-powered ship is the same as for the battery-powered ship, plus the process of manufacturing of the photovoltaic module. Life cycle assessment resulted with the amount of released carbon footprint to the life cycle of a power system. Firstly, the diesel engine power chip was investigated, and based on the results present on this slide, the pump-to-wheel emissions mostly contribute to the total carbon footprint of this particular power system. As for the battery-powered chip, the well-to-pump emissions are a major contributor to the total carbon footprint of this power system. This phase actually refers to electricity generation. In this paper, the battery is charged with the Croatian electricity mix presented on this slide. If there is a higher share of renewable energy sources in the electricity mix, the water-pump emissions would be lower. The main limitation is the battery capacity, which needs to be sufficient to ensure the shipping route. Therefore, it is assumed that the cargo ship is charged after a one-way trip, while the passengers is charged after a round trip. Such as for the previous system, well-to-pump emissions are a major contributor to the total carbon footprint of a power system. Besides battery capacity, other limitations are solar radiance, which is location specific, and for the area where the cargo ship is operating, it is lower than for the area where a passenger ship operates. Ship dimensions are also a limitation since they define the area on which the photovoltaic cells can be placed. The final comparison of the investigated power system is performed, and according to it, the photovoltaic cells, a battery-powered chip, has the lowest life cycle emissions for both considered ships. In the end, it can be concluded that the decarbonization of the inland navigation vessels can be achieved with the full electrification, while the implementation of renewable energy sources such as photovoltaic cells on board can achieve even greater carbon footprint reduction. With the application of the photovoltaic cells battery-powered ship, the carbon footprint can be reduced for around 49% for the cargo ship and for around 64% for the passenger ship. It should be noted that my research group and I are investigating the options to reduce the carbon footprint and other noxious emissions released by combustion of conventional marine fuel in ship engine. Our research is mainly focused on the different ship power system, either with the implementation of renewable energy sources for onboard power generation or by implementation of different alternative marine fuels. The results of our analysis are illustrated on the Ro-Ro passenger ships and in this paper on inland waterway vessels. Here are some papers that are published in this year in which the environmental and economical assessments are performed and the best solutions are highlighted. And thank you for your attention.